Okay, so hoping we're live because I'm switching up my strategy here. But if you are an expert and you have been on 1, 5, 10, 15, 25 different podcasts and you can't track not a single I mean a cent back to your business in dollar amounts, this conversation, right? This situation that we have right now, this is for you. Okay. This week, I'm breaking down exactly why your podcast appearances are not making you the kind of money that you know that they possibly could. And today, specifically, we're starting with what I tend to think is the mistake that kills your ROI even before you get on the mic. Okay. My name is Carolee Moore. I am the founder and CEO of the Podcast Pitching Society, and I have personally made nearly $100,000 in less than a year on just podcast guesting alone. That is no ads, no viral moments, no big following, simply just strategy. And that strategy actually led to an entire system that we've created for our clients. And that system has led to multiple 5-figure contracts for our clients, paid speaking gigs, and I'm talking about 5-figure paid speaking gigs. And then also selling their books like hotcakes. So there's a lot to be covered here. I'm going to try my best to do it in the 7 days that we have. Now, this is just going to be a little taste. If you're wanting a bit more, and I would say a deeper conversation with me around podcast guesting and the monetization piece of it, we're having a masterclass that's happening on the 4th of March. So a little over a week from now. And in that space is where we're going to be workshopping a lot. You're going to have an opportunity to speak directly to me and ask questions specifically about your business, your brand, and your story, and in real time, helping to kind of break that down so you can move with clarity. Whereas here, you're listening to me, of course, you're going to get gems. Hopefully you have a pen, paper that you're taking notes today. However, that's going to be a great place to actually put some feet to some of the ideas that you have, right? Start walking it out a little bit. But let's talk about today. Today, I have a few different points that I want to make. And the first one is, you're saying yes to everybody. You're saying yes to everything. You are just happy to be in the room, honey. Here's the problem. Much like in dating, when you are saying yes to everybody, typically the person and the people who are like very, very in your face, like, hey, come look at me, that's typically not the best option. And I can't say always, but typically not the best option. And also, I'm no tea, no shade. Okay, everybody has to start somewhere. I definitely have my little engine that could podcast, currency of visibility, and we are, we're building. However, the podcasts that you need to get on are the podcasts that already have a built-in audience. They didn't start last week. They have enough data to show you that your people are listening. And that's another piece of it as well, because I'm not going to say people lie, but they misrepresent the truth. How about that? In terms of, do they actually know who their audience is? They know who they want their audience to be. Do they know who their audience is? I'll give you an example. I was on a podcast, and she was telling me how when she first started, she had an idea of what she wanted the podcast to be and who she thought the listeners would be and could be and who she wanted them to be and all of that, right? And so she was chugging along. And then eventually, as she started to get some traction and started to get engagement with her audience, she recognized that her audience were actually people in her industry who are doing the same thing, but they're like earlier in their career. Right? So they're listening to her for like game instead of who she thought was listening. And so she kind of revamped the podcast to actually help the people who were listening. And a lot of people who have podcasts don't actually know who the heck is listening. It's just the truth. And so you almost have to kind of put on your Sherlock Holmes hat really quickly and do that research yourself. Try to figure out, is this podcast? Yes, I hear, okay, it's stated this is the purpose of it or whatever the case is, but how can I kind of gauge who's actually listening. It is not easy. That's the reason why my agency exists. I'm just going to be really honest with you. There are things that you might not have the hours to put in, but it's super important. That first one is just not saying everything. I mean, it's saying yes to everything that comes your way. And a lot of people actually, when I speak to folks, because they already think I'm going to pitch them, I'm like, I don't even know if you're a right fit for my agency yet. I'm not going to pitch you. It's a two-way street. Side note. But a lot of folks really are just taking whatever is coming. And when they meet someone like me, their first thing that they say is like, yeah, I've been on a lot of podcasts. I don't really care about that number, right? There are plenty of people who have been on way more podcasts than I have. But I can almost guarantee that if I haven't made more money than them, I've made almost the same amount. And that's a problem, right? Thinking about, okay, you've done 3 times as many podcasts as I have, but I made more money than you. I don't really care about how many podcasts I've been on. I really care about what that means for my business, because it is a part of a business strategy. And so you want to make sure that the shows that you're going on, it's not just about size. And that's point number 2. I was going to make a really inappropriate joke. I'm just going to suck that back in. So listen, if point number 1 really touched you, if you said yes to your friend's cousin, uncle podcast and realized that wasn't the right move, I want you to comment "been there" in the comments, because I cannot be the only person. Guilty. Okay. When I first started, I was on everybody and their mama's podcast. Anybody who asked, I was like, oh, of course, why not? Until I realized, okay, this is actually my time and I need to respect that. Okay, so point number 2, right shows does not equal larger size, right? We've heard the whole thing of like size matters. In this case, size matters as much as right fit matters. And when I say right fit, I'm talking about, again, audience. I'm talking about, is the podcast host themselves a potential client, potential referral partner, someone that you think has connections in an area that you're wanting to kind of branch into. It's not just this linear, okay, they have, 500,000 downloads a month. What does that mean for me and my business? How can I leverage all parts of this to actually make money? And if you're thinking about this before you even pitch, you're able to craft a pitch that makes sense for both them and you, because you've done enough research now to know who they are. You actually know probably more than they do about their stuff because you've done some digging. And the problem with a lot of not only podcast agencies, my competition, but just people in general, are out here praying and spraying God, or just spraying and praying, one of them. And y'all are making it worse for everybody else, right? If we are so inundated, and my LinkedIn DMs are in shambles right now. We're inundated with like mediocrity. I know that sounds really blunt, but it's the truth. We are inundated with people who are trying to take the easy way out. They're trying to get in front of the line without actually doing the work that it takes to get there. They're thinking, if I spray to 5,000 people, then at some point somebody will say yes somewhere. And okay, you can do that math, or you can take the time to do the research, do your due diligence before. So your pitch and the way that you approach it, it feels less sleazy. It feels less like, okay, you just do that together. It feels less like I got the same boilerplate language that everybody and their mama, every other podcast that you pitched, got the exact same. No. No. And I got to tell you, the right show isn't just about size, but it really is about their audience. It really is about all the other opportunities that you can see coming from that. And you cannot skip over that. You cannot skip over that research phase. If you're trying to do this for more than just like, all right, I was on a podcast. If that's your bag, honey, you're in the wrong place. If your bag is like, I'm trying to run up these numbers and tell people I've been on 50 podcasts, fantastic. That's your bag. This ain't for you, right? This conversation are for the folks that's like, listen, I've been on 5, respectfully, and I'm not trying to do another 5, 10, 20 without a plan, without a clear strategy of like, how am I going to make this make sense for my business and for my time? Because another rant, but it's important. I want you to remember that your time not only is tied to a literal dollar amount, but it's the only thing that you're not able to earn back. You can earn more money. Always. Money comes and it goes. Right? There's an energy connected to that. It comes and it goes. You can never earn more time. And so as much as people are like, well, it didn't cost me anything, I did it myself. I actually think it costs you more than it would if you just give it to somebody else and have them do it. But we're so stuck on trying to do everything ourselves that certain things, just the quality of things, pull down because we're trying to DIY, ourselves into 6 and 7 figures. And typically we just DIY ourselves out of business. So I got to tell you now, make sure that you're putting in the work to do the research, to get on the shows that actually makes sense for you and your business. And then lastly, before you say yes to any shows, you need to be asking questions to yourself about what is the goal, what am I trying to do, and how does this show connect to that? It might not be super, super direct. It might be slightly to the left, but still makes sense. What do I mean by that? Maybe the show itself isn't like a slam dunk, but the host is. So you pitch anyways, and you position it however you need to position it to get on the show, or at the very least in communication with the host. Because even if they turn you down, honey, what am I do? I'm gonna pitch you to be like, hey, well, got it about the podcast. However, would love to do a coffee chat with you. So don't sleep on opportunities all around. This is before you get on the mic. This is the stuff that's actually going to set you up for success when you get on the mic. And so the homework that I have for you, and yes, you have homework. I have a teaching spirit. I've been a teacher my whole life. I was the weirdo that like during summer school, or not even summer school, just summer period, I made my brother and my cousins do summer school. I had a whole curriculum, so ridiculous, whole curriculum that I taught these poor kids. I mean, torture every summer. Okay, lunch break, all the things. And so not a surprise that every single live session that you have, all of my podcast episodes that you listen to, there's always some element that I want you to use to actually implement and get something out of it. It's just who I am. So your homework, dropping in the comments right now, name one podcast that you've been on or that you want to be on. Just name the podcast. We're going to use that podcast now as a working example for the rest of the week. And so if you catch any other part of this live series, you're going to use that podcast. When we talk about storytelling and kind of building out your story, you're going to use that podcast as like, okay, what story would I need to create in order to be a good fit for this show? When we talk about your unique value prop, or not even your unique value prop, but your unique perspective, what I like to call your visibility PowerPoint, that's going to be in line with whatever that show is. So I want you to drop that in the comments now. Even if you're watching this after this is live, I want you to drop it in the comments so that when we run this back again, right, for day 2, day 3, day 4, all the things, you will have that directly in there. And like I mentioned earlier, this is just like a little taste, right? I'm trying to give y'all a little taste of what we're actually going to go much deeper in during the masterclass, where I'm going to walk you through and give you like tangible examples of things. And you're going to have the opportunity, like I said, and I keep saying, because it's important. We like to struggle, in the back, in the corner, in the dark, and then complain. I'm trying to hold your hand and bring you out into the light, honey, and say, hey, what's your question? And let's work through this and workshop that. And that's what we're going to be doing live next Wednesday. So you have nothing, to fear on that. It's a free event. Register at the link. I believe it's in the description somewhere. And I hope to see you there. I'm doing this live thing for a whole week, and energetically, we're gonna see what happens. Day one is great. And that's what it is. So, last thing before I leave, I would love to know in the comments again what you've learned from this. What's something that you haven't thought about, or something that I said that triggered something else. Like, I would love to hear your kind of thoughts on that. Let's have a conversation. All right. Until next time, I will see you later.